Honestly, I'm pretty lost for words, feeling really dejected at the moment, and I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna really talk about it. It's certainly not a game that I want to particularly talk about. A really depressing result, depressing performance from Arsenal. Didn't feel like a derby from an Arsenal fan in any way, shape or form. Our players simply didn't look motivated for this game, and I think there are a lot of problems certainly erupted from this game that we've been so accustomed to seeing earlier on in the season. And I think I thought after that result against City, the 2-0 victory at the Etihad, that we'd really turned a corner in these important games, let alone these 12:45 kickoffs. It's massively frustrating because it's predictable. It's so predictable with Arsenal. It's something that we see time and time again. We're so inconsistent. I don't know what Arsenal are going to turn up, and I don't know where we go from this, because it's just, when are we going to gain some consistency, especially in these games that matter so much? If you can't get the players motivated for a derby, if the players can't get themselves motivated for this game, let alone the manager getting them motivated, then what hope does that give us going into what is a crucial part of the season? I honestly don't see us slipping up more than once or twice in the final stretch of the season. We've got home games against Liverpool, Chelsea, which we should be getting points from, and the only real difficult trip I see is the away game at Old Trafford, which, talk about massive, that is the second last game of the season. That's going to be a massive game, but this has really hindered our progress. Spurs move above us. Honestly, I don't think that's going to be for too long. They've got a massive game against Liverpool in midweek, whereas we play Leicester, and I think something like at least half of our fixtures in the final run-in are against teams in the bottom half of the table, so we can take some confidence from that. I do still firmly believe that we'll finish above Spurs and we'll get a top 4 finish, but the real negative thing today is just the performance in a derby. I just can't get my head around it. It was a derby, the players didn't look motivated, didn't look up for it, and we got outdone tactically by Pochettino, and we were meant to have the more superior players on the pitch. We certainly didn't look like that today. Tottenham, I hate to say it, but they thoroughly deserved the win today. Thoroughly deserved it. I can't take anything away from them. I can't take anything away from Harry Kane or Pochettino. They thoroughly deserved the win. They outplayed us in every way, shape or form. The only thing that you could argue that we were maybe better at them out was on the counter-attack, but even then we had very few shots on goal, and they defended resiliently. They attacked well against us, and they were up for it. They were up for the derby. Spurs are an inconsistent side. Will they repeat this performance on a regular basis? Honestly, I can't. No, I don't think they will. They beat Chelsea 5-3 a couple of weeks ago. Then they go and lose to Leicester at home. Can they maintain that kind of performance on a consistent basis? No. It's a derby. They were going to fire up for that, and they've got a lot more difficult fixtures than we do going into the final part of the season. So honestly, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up that kind of stability, momentum in what is a pivotal part of the season for them, especially. They're only 1 point ahead of us. If I'm trying to shed any kind of light on this, they are 1 point ahead of us, and they've got more difficult fixtures than us, and we have a very tidy run into the end of the season. But let's not dwell on that for too long. I mean, that's just one aspect of positivity that I'm trying to get out of this. But let's look at the Arsenal lineup first and foremost. I think the real puzzling thing for a lot of Arsenal fans was the surprise inclusion of Danny Welbeck coming in for Theo Walcott. Certainly surprised me. I'd have started Walcott. He's got an excellent record in these derbies, both with goals and assists. Welbeck started, and I think, honestly, I thought he had a really a good game. I don't want to over-elaborate on him. I thought he had a good game. Did very well in the build-up to our fairly early goal, and he tracked back really well, showed a very strong work ethic. I think he was rightly subbed in the second half of the game. There are parts of his game that he certainly needs to work on, but considering he's been out for a month and a bit, I think he played very well on his return, and we can take another positive from that. But apart from that, the team was pretty much the same. We saw Coughlin utilised in midfield. We lined up with what was meant to be our strongest back four, and regarding the back four, I think there were problems with it today. Bellerin at right back, I don't want to criticise him too much. He's been phenomenal for us the past couple of games. I don't think he did too much wrong today, but I think he was maybe a little bit found out on that right hand side of the pitch. Left back Nacho Monreal, our best defender in my opinion today. For it was absolute class. He's earning his place in the team at the moment. I would say he was the Arsenal man of the match because he just put so much effort in today and was certainly the strongest out of what was a poor backline. Per Mertesacker on numerous occasions chested the ball down into dangerous situations and made it difficult for us at times. Laurent Koscielny, I think it was an off day from him. In truth, I think he could have done a lot better on the second goal that we conceded, and at times was leaving men unmarked. He made a couple of dodgy challenges, but that is a rarity from him. I wouldn't expect him to do that on a consistent basis. I mean, we've kept a lot of clean sheets before going into this game, so that poor defensive performance is really weird. It's really weird. Were we nervous? Was it something along those lines? Because I can't get my head around it. We should have played a lot better David Ospina in goal, rightly so, cementing his place as the Arsenal #1 at the moment. Thought he had a relatively good game. There are times, the one weakness that's really coming out of him now is that he's parrying the ball into dangerous situations, but apart from that, he is a quality keeper, and I don't want to lay into him too much. In the middle of the park, we lined up with Francis Coquelin, Aaron Ramsey, and then in front of them you had Mesut Ozil, Santi Cazorla, and like I've just mentioned, Danny Welbeck. Coquelin, decent game from him today. I thought he had a slight dip. I don't think he emulated the performance that he had against Man City. And just bringing up that Man City game again, just very briefly, I think it's got to be said that although we played very well in that game, City were diabolical, and Spurs played to a level of a very, very, very good team today, and they certainly showed that we can't always line up in that very defensive situation where we sit back and try to catch the team on the counter, because it's not always going to work. When you've got quality going forward, which they do in Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen and the likes, it was always going to be difficult for us, and they found us out today and they got the win. City, it was a very good display from us, but personally, it's hard to see us doing that more and more and more. It's just it really does depend again on the team that you're coming up against, on the opposition. But moving on from that aspect, Aaron Ramsey, another player that I want to pinpoint, and I do honestly, trust me, I hate to keep bringing up Ramsey. I want him to succeed at this club more than anyone else at the moment. Everyone around him seems to be doing so well. He's the one player that doesn't seem to have kicked on from where he was last season. I'm just trying to comprehend, what does he do in the midfield at the moment? What is he bringing to the Arsenal team? I'm trying to be very level-headed about it. I want him to cement a place in the Arsenal team, but at the moment, he's not doing it. When Thomas Rosicky came on, he outshined Aaron Ramsey. When he played for about 15 minutes of the game, he did more in those 15 minutes than Ramsey did for the time that he was on the pitch. He offered very little. His first touch is shocking at the moment. It really is poor, and his passing is off point, and he's trying to do pirouettes and stuff, which in these kind of games you can't afford to do. He needs to simplify his game. He needs to stop trying so hard. I would drop him for the game against Leicester and bring in Thomas Rosicky or at least someone else, because he does need to get his head right. He needs to take a look at himself. He needs to simplify his game, and I want him performing to the level that he did last season. I think that's only going to happen if he really does take a look at himself and we drop him for a couple of fixtures. Certainly I would drop him for the game against Leicester. But yeah, I mean, the attacking players that we had, the attacking flair on the side, Olivier Giroud, Danny Welbeck, Santi Cazorla, Mesut Ozil, those kind of players beyond the defensive players, we failed to get in the game really. I mean, Cazorla, he barely touched the ball today. Mesut Ozil, apart from the goal, didn't have a lot of work to do. Olivier Giroud, Danny Welbeck was probably the most player that contributed to the team out of those players that I've just named. But it's hard to get those players involved when we're sitting so deep and we're inviting pressure from Spurs. Inviting pressure is never a good way to set up. We should have set up with a counter-attacking formation. I think that would have worked a lot better if we'd have had Theo Walcott in the side. But unfortunately, that's not worked out for us. But getting into the actual game itself, it couldn't have started off any better for us. Getting the early goal through Mesut Ozil. And did we deserve this goal? Probably not, because we were so on the back foot at this point. We weren't really counter-attacking. We weren't offering a lot in the game. Danny Welbeck, all the plaudits have to go to him. The run past Danny Rose was absolute quality. And then playing the ball in, scuff shot by Olivier Giroud. I don't think he intended to do that. But either way, it fell to Ozil. And it was a quality finish into the back of the net. Was it offside? Honestly, the way BT Sport went on about this goal was so frustrating. If you're watching the game in any other part of the world and you don't have to listen to the absolute crap that they talk on BT Sport, think yourself lucky, because the bias against us, Steve McManaman, Jake Humphrey, they speak absolute garbage, absolute garbage. He was about a toes width offside. What difference is that going to make to the goal? It was poor defending from Spurs. They left Ozil unmarked. How about we take a look at the poor positioning of Dier and we go in for a close-in analysis on his foot as well. And then we'll see how level they are onside. Ridiculous by BT Sport. And to continue to bring that up throughout the course of the game, so frustrating. I guarantee you, if that was Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, any other club in and around the top four, would never have been brought up again throughout the course of the game. Maybe mentioned once or twice, but they would never have delved into it as much as they did with Arsenal. It's frustrating. I guarantee you they'll go into it on Match of the Day as well. But that aside, we were 1-0 up and we defended well from there on in. Spurs weren't offering a lot. They were dominating possession, but they were playing a lot of it in their own half around the 18-yard box, and they weren't having any clear-cut chances on goal. I mean, they had a couple of shots from Mason, Eriksen, but nothing really that troubled David Ospina, at least going into half-time. And then we come out in the second half, and it was kind of capitulation. What did we really offer in that second half? It was poor from us, really poor. We go a goal down through Harry Kane midway through the second half. I think it was about that point, from a corner, and this is what impressed me most in the City game. They had something like 20 corners against us, and we defended every single one to a great standard. This corner comes in, At first, it looked like a great save from David Ospina, but he parried it right back to Harry Kane. Instinctive finish from Kane, puts it in the back of the net, 1-1, and Spurs' dominance paid off, and they continued to press and press and press and press against us. We were offering absolutely nothing at the other end of the pitch, at least until Thomas Rosicky and Theo Walcott came on. Rosicky, for me, when he came on about at 1-1, really changed the dynamics of the game when he could, because he wasn't on the ball that much, because Spurs were enjoying such dominant possession. But Thomas Rosicky certainly played a pivotal role in this game. He has to be starting more. He's such an influential player to the Arsenal team, and like I said, for the Leicester game, I would drop Aaron Ramsey and bring in Thomas Rosicky, play him in that box-to-box midfield role. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's got to be starting games irrelevant of his age. But yeah, we went another goal down, 2-1 through Harry Kane, and this goal, shambolic, absolutely shambolic defending. It's hard to comprehend, because we're such a recently we've been so renowned for our quality defending. No one picked up Bentaleb, who brought the cross in. It was shocking, appalling. Away from home, you can't be doing that. Bentaleb floats in the ball. Harry Kane jumps between the two actually, I think it was Monreal and Koscielny that he got in between. Pretty poor from Koscielny, actually, not to actually win the header, but Kane puts it in the back of net. Quality header, quality goal. He is looking like a real talent, Harry Kane. Very young as well, and credit where it's due. It was a great goal, and we went 2-1 down, and from there on in, could I see ourselves judging on how we'd play for the rest of the game? Did I see us getting another goal? I hate to say it, but no, I didn't, because we hadn't been worthy of a goal. We hadn't played like we wanted to get a goal. If we wanted to win this game, we'd have tried to get another one and made it 2-0 when we had the opportunities to, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. We saw Theo Walcott come on. That was just before we went 2-1 down. He didn't really get that many opportunities on the ball, to be honest. That was frustrating to see. I really thought he was the player that could have changed this game, but he didn't seem to get involved. But that's only because we were being so pressurised into our own half. But losing 2-1 to Spurs, the North London derby at White Hart Lane, honestly, I'm struggling to take positives out of it. I really am. The only positives I can really take is Nacho Monreal having a good performance, Danny Welbeck coming back into the squad, and Mesut Ozil continues his magnificent form. The real concerning thing for me is how few players actually turned up for the game and actually looked like they wanted to win it. The only players of note that I can honestly think turned up today: Monreal, Ospina, Coquelin, and Welbeck. Apart from that, I'm struggling, and Ozil as well, of course, getting the goal. But apart from that, I can't really see any other players that really looked like they were up for the battle, because they weren't. At times there were a couple of problems. The inconsistency thing is starting to worry me. It's just we can't seem to solidify a team at the moment. It is frustrating. This is a team that put 5 goals past Villa, and now they're having a rather capitulative performance at White Hart Lane. It's I don't want to overreact, of course. I mean, if I am trying to shed any light on it, like I've already said, Spurs have got very tough fixtures. Out of all the teams in and around the top 4, we've got one of the easiest run-ins. A lot of our teams are in the bottom half of the table that we've got to play, and the only way that we can respond is by absolutely battering Leicester on Tuesday. I mean, I'm talking like 4 or 5-0. We've really got to be beating them heavily in that game to prove a point, to prove that this result hasn't hindered our progress. For all we know, we could be back above Spurs come Tuesday night. All it takes is a Liverpool draw or a win in that game, or you know, just anything but a Spurs win, and we'll be above them in midweek. So you know, it's a bad result. It is a bad result against our nemesis, but it's not the end of the world. There are still positives to be taken. I don't want to come across too positive, because trust me, this is a horrible result, but it isn't the end of the world. We can move on from this. I firmly believe we will finish in the top 4. We've got another 2 trophies to play for. We were never going to win the league, and we're still very much in the race to get a top 4 finish, if not a top 3 finish. So I firmly believe that we're going to get in the top 4. We're not going to win the league. That was obvious. We're still in contention for the FA Cup at least, and we'll see how far we can get in the Champions League. There is still room for a good season. This result shouldn't hinder that, but in the moment it just feels horrible. I feel absolutely sick, but you know, we've got to move on. We've got to move forward. If we're a great club, we're not going to let results like this hinder us, and the only way we can do that is by getting a convincing win against Leicester. I'm going for a 4 or 5-0 on that. We've got to respond. No ifs, no buts. Just got to do it. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on our 2-1 loss at White Hart Lane. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a like rating. Maybe that'll cheer me up. Subscribe to Arsenal Fan TV, as well as my own channel, AFC Game by Game, and I'll speak to you soon, guys.